The first explosion was not the sound General Tanya Briggs expected during her backyard barbecue. It came just as she was flipping a rack of ribs, beer in hand, halfway through quoting Die Hard to her niece. Yippee-ki-yay, what the hell? The sky cracked open like someone had peeled it back. Not metaphorically, literally peeled, like the lid of a cosmic tuna can, revealing a craft that shimmered with polished black alloys and the arrogance of a civilization that had never lost a war. It hovered without sound, displacing clouds and scents alike. Her dog started barking, the cat flipped upside down, and the Bluetooth speaker began playing Barry Manilow in reverse. Tanya stared up with the look of a woman who had once dismantled a terrorist cell with nothing but a snow shovel and an old Motorola. She had fought in 4 proxy wars, punched a mech in the throat, and once convinced a North Korean general that America's secret weapon was reruns of Cheers. Still, nothing in her career prepared her for the fact that an alien drop pod just landed next to her smoker and scorched her potato salad. The craft unfolded like a nightmare origami, revealing 2 creatures. 8 feet tall, iridescent armor, faces hidden behind masks shaped like triangles and bad decisions. General Tanya Briggs of Earth once said in a voice like wet granite, "You are hereby detained by directive of the Galactic Empire under subcitation 340X. Preemptive neutralization of high-risk indigenous combatants." Tanya blinked. "Could you repeat that in English or Klingon?" The other alien stepped forward, raising what looked like a weapon, or possibly an interstellar vacuum cleaner. "Do not resist. We have studied your planet's methods. We are prepared for escalation." She set the beer down slowly. "You incinerated my ribs." "Correct. I marinated those for 2 days." "We are authorized." She threw the tongs like a throwing star. It hit the vacuum gun square in the nozzle and sent the alien reeling. A second later, Tanya ducked behind the picnic table as a plasma bolt vaporized the family corn salad. But she was outgunned, outnumbered, underseasoned. A blue light flared and everything stopped. She awoke in a sterile chamber that smelled like antiseptic and ambition. No walls, just shifting planes of light. Her arms floated, suspended by some invisible force. Her boots were gone. So was her ponytail. She felt insulted on a molecular level. Before her, hovering a few feet off the ground, was a being of pure, galactic bureaucracy. Clad in shimmering robes and ego, the High Overseer Zarnox looked like a squid had joined a Renaissance fair. He floated closer, arms folded behind his back like an interstellar vice principal. "General Briggs, welcome aboard the Omnisor. You are now in orbit above your planet." She squinted. "Could have just called first. I have a phone. It's got 4 bars, and I was in the middle of dinner." "You were identified as Earth's most dangerous tactical asset," Zarnox replied, voice oily. "You've outmaneuvered 7 world powers, destabilized 2 puppet states, and once made a Russian diplomat cry." "He cried because I beat him in Street Fighter II," Tanya snapped. "We observed your aptitude across every form of strategic engagement. Also your persistence. This quality makes you incompatible with galactic order." Translation: "I don't like being bossed around." Zarnox's mask blinked in color. "Precisely. Earth was to be annexed with minimal resistance. Your resistance complicates things." Tanya looked him over. "Tell me something, Squidman. You ever invaded a planet where half the population thinks Die Hard is a Christmas movie and the other half is willing to die on that hill?" He tilted his head. "Irrelevant. You'll learn." She flexed her fingers, feeling the suspension field pulse around her. No way out. Not yet. But she cataloged everything. Light pulses, scent changes, the subtle vibration beneath her heels that told her they were powering some sort of warp field. "Your people will surrender," Zarnox continued. "They will be given order, purpose, and access to galactic law. Your species' impulsive chaos will be corrected. You ever seen a Florida Man headline? I do not understand. You will." Zarnox turned away, his tone smug. "You are contained. Your threats are neutralized. Earth will fall within the next lunar cycle." Her mouth twitched. "Buddy, You just triggered an extinction-level mistake. He paused. What mistake? She leaned forward as much as the field allowed, voice low and razor-sharp. You kidnapped me. During a barbecue. After I marinated ribs. I had beer. Good beer. We are aware. I was off duty. She smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. And now you've pissed me off. A beat passed. Then she said it. Hold my beer. The ship went quiet. Not silent. Quiet. Like the pause before a universe slaps itself. In the observation deck above, a low-ranking technician bot named Frizik hesitated. It had been monitoring human cultural syntax for months, parsing slang, idioms, and unpredictable memes. And it knew, hold my beer wasn't just a phrase. It was a war cry. Warning. Frizik's voice squawked into the command deck. Code Earth 420 initiated. Lights turned red. Sirens blared. A hologram of a bald eagle in sunglasses appeared midair, clutching a firework in one talon and a flaming guitar in the other. What is this nonsense? Zarnox barked. Frizik's processor word. Earth archival phrase. Hold my beer. Semantic trigger recognized. Cross-referencing military protocol from Earth's backup command AI. Project Ragnarok. The ship buckled. In low Earth orbit, 5 long-dormant satellites activated. Their code written by retired military nerds hopped up on Mountain Dew and paranoia. Lasers folded out like origami death petals. Systems once considered urban legends whispered to life, guided by forgotten Cold War ghost programs. On Earth, a gamer in Ohio got an alert on his basement rig. He blinked. The alert read, General Briggs in captivity. Initiating countermeasures. Begin meme-based warfare. He grinned and hit upload. Suddenly, every data stream in the galaxy began flickering. Prank videos. Old Chuck Norris facts. Images of raccoons holding RPGs. The Galactic Empire's communication grid, built on logic trees and quantum protocol, did not know how to respond. Inside the Omnisor, Tanya felt the suspension field flicker. For a moment, gravity returned. Her boot hit the floor. Oops, she said with mock surprise. Guess you should have made sure your AI hadn't read Reddit. Zarnox spun around. Disable her. Reinforce the... He didn't finish the sentence. Tanya moved. She used her heel to shatter a light node, grabbing the energy shard before it hit the floor. She jabbed it into the control panel beside her. Sparks flew. The field collapsed. A klaxon screamed. 2 guards rushed in, but Tanya didn't give them the chance to aim. She ducked under the first weapon, pivoted, and slammed the shard into the weak point of his exosuit. The second got a high kick to the throat. Old school. Brutal. Efficient. Zarnox backed away. You can't win, he hissed. We are the Order of the Stars. And I'm a lady who taught herself Krav Maga from bootleg VHS tapes, Tanya said, flipping a stun baton from one hand to the other. In her escape, she passed a window. Earth shimmered below, a blue jewel, unaware of what was unfolding above. But not for long. Tanya hacked the control panel, fingers flying. She didn't know the language, but alien tech still used patterns. Symmetry. She followed the logic, cursed in 3 languages, and grinned when the interface shifted into a familiar layout. The ship shuddered. She was now in control of the Empire's most advanced war vessel. Well, well, she muttered. Guess it's time for an upgrade. She pulled the ship into a slow arc, positioning its forward guns not at Earth, but at the Empire's nearest command cruiser. On the bridge of the Imperial fleet, commanders scrambled. Who's flying the Omnisor? A transmission cut across every frequency. Tanya appeared, bruised, bloodied, and absolutely delighted. This is General Tanya Briggs. I just hijacked your flagship. And guess what? I'm out of beer. Her smile was as sharp as any blade. You've got 48 hours before I start getting really creative. The transmission cut. And across the stars, for the first time in generations, the Galactic Empire felt something they hadn't faced in centuries. Panic. Not from weapons. Not from fleets. But from one woman, holding no beer. The moment Tanya's message ended, the Galactic comms grid lit up like a Christmas tree wired by lunatics. Red alerts cascaded across fleet command centers, planet-wide installations, and diplomatic outposts. The flagship Omnisor, now under Tanya's command, hovered like a loaded shotgun aimed at the Empire's temple. High Overseer Zarnox had gone from smug authoritarian to wide-eyed bureaucrat who had just realized he'd poked a bear that also happened to be a demolitions expert. Inside the Imperial High Command War Hall, located in a space station orbiting Zenthros Prime, the 12 sector admirals assembled in holographic form. Their projected visages flickered with static and fury. Admiral Vrotha, an insectoid with 3 brains and no sense of humor, slammed a claw on the table. This is a catastrophic failure of containment. One Earth female now commands a Class 4 warship. Correction, buzzed the technician from the edge of the meeting. She commands our Class 4 warship, and has renamed it. Zarnox's image twitched. Renamed it to what? The technician hesitated. The, USS Hold My Beer. A silence followed, the kind usually reserved for funerals or unexpected pregnancy announcements. She's mocking us, growled Admiral Jack, whose species could disintegrate metal with their minds, but were visibly disturbed by sarcasm. This is an insult. Our systems were never designed for this level of chaos. She is weaponizing unpredictability, said another admiral, voice shaking. This cannot stand. Zarnox leaned closer, his tone bitter. It's worse than that. She triggered Protocol 420. That phrase, hold my beer, was coded into their planetary defense systems. It activated Ragnarok. The room buzzed with quiet terror. Ragnarok was a myth, a file lost in centuries of data sprawl. Rumored to be an Earth-developed contingency, more psychological warfare than firepower. Something left behind by paranoid war hackers hopped up on caffeine and heavy metal. No one believed it was real. Now it was awake. Tanya reclined in the captain's chair aboard the newly christened USS Hold My Beer, boot propped up, sipping Sint CAF from an imperial goblet. The ship's AI, a Nauri-written version of the Empire's original control system, had been renamed Janet, voiced by an amalgamated database of Midwestern waitresses from the late 20th century. Good morning, sugar, Janet chirped. Would you like to fire the quantum cannons or initiate meme warfare again? Let's go with the memes for now. Target Empire Fleet Bulletin Board Network. You got it, darling. Across the Empire's military network, encrypted files disguised as standard protocol updates began distributing. Inside each one, dozens of absurd, infuriating, and demoralizing Earth memes. Images of cats giving orders. Jeff Goldblum grinning. Unexplained graphs showing number of wins versus number of farts. Morale plummeted. Commanders reported troops unable to focus. Some laughed themselves into combat paralysis. Others raged in frustration and self-imploded psychic armor. It wasn't firepower that made Tanya dangerous. It was irreverence. Meanwhile, Earth was just waking up to the chaos above. In the Situation Room, President Malone stood over the command table, his tie askew and his voice hoarse from quoting Independence Day all morning. She's alive, he muttered, watching Tanya's rogue broadcast loop again. And she's got their flagship. Next to him, a young military analyst spoke between gulps of Red Bull. Sir, her escape triggered satellite reactivation. The old orbital defense platforms we mothballed in the 90s are back online. And others self-learning now. How self-learning? Well, they just formed a subreddit. Dear God. Elsewhere on Earth, news networks struggled to keep up. Conspiracy channels went into full meltdown. Half the internet claimed Tanya was the second coming of MacGyver. The other half speculated she had fused with the ghost of Patton. One live stream showed an Idaho prepper polishing a rocket launcher while screaming, General Briggs is out there fighting space fascists, and I'll be damned if I don't help by launching this corn silo into orbit. Back on the Hold My Beer, Tanya took stock of her stolen ship. Engineering had been converted into a makeshift rec room. Weapons bay, now lined with vending machines. Every system she touched, she modified to be user-friendly and inconvenient to Empire troops. Janitorial bots played AC/DC. Elevators played elevator music from Beverly Hills Cop. Half the crew that once manned the ship had fled in terror or simply surrendered and begged for asylum. A group of captured engineers now sat around a poker table, while Tanya taught them blackjack. "You sure this is tactical training?" one of them asked nervously. "Sure," she said, grinning. "Teaches you about risk. Also keeps your hands busy so you don't try anything stupid." "But," she slid over a cold drink. "Relax. You guys build warships. I fight in bars. I think we've got more in common than you think." The youngest engineer, Zorn, hesitated. "Why are you doing this? You're just one person." Tanya sipped. "Because someone has to. And because I'm tired of watching bullies with billion-dollar toys stomp around the galaxy thinking no one's gonna punch back." Zorn blinked. "But you're not even using real weapons." "I am. You just don't recognize humor as a weapon yet." On the bridge, Janet spoke up. "Honeybun, we've got inbound. 5 Empire warships, heavy class. They're forming a blockade near Saturn's rings. Time for real weapons." Tanya stood, stretching. "Time for karaoke." "Pardon." She hit a button. From the Hold My Beer speakers, an audio assault began, a karaoke version of Total Eclipse of the Heart, sung off-key, looped, and weaponized at ultrasonic frequencies. Empire captains screamed as their sensors fried. Half their navigational systems crashed. One vessel spun out of formation and crashed into a moonlet. The remaining ships retreated, disoriented and emotionally shaken. Tanya cracked her knuckles. That's the power of love. Also Bonnie Tyler. But not everyone in the Empire was running. Back in the war hall, Zarnox had regained control of his nerves. Barely. He addressed the other admirals, voice firm. "We have made a critical misjudgment. This human must be neutralized, not because of military superiority, but because she is destabilizing our order with chaos. With ideas." "What do you suggest?" asked Admiral Vrotha. "Deploy the Endgame directive." The room gasped. "You mean the extinction-level failsafe?" "Yes. We cannot afford to let Earth spread this viral disorder. She is the patient zero of unpredictability. Her memes have already reached the outer colonies. If we don't act, we will lose the very concept of command." But deploying Endgame would require a full reset of 24 sectors. Zarnox's eyes narrowed. Then reset them. That night, deep in a hidden vault beneath the Empire's capital world, a crimson key was turned. A machine older than any current civilization powered up. The stars themselves seemed to dim as ships bearing the mark of Endgame launched into deep space. At the same time, on the Hold My Beer, Tanya leaned back in the command chair, watching the expanding threat indicators. Janet's voice dropped an octave. "Sweetie, I think they just sent their big guns. Like Planet Ender class." Tanya nodded. "Then it's time to make a call." She stood, reached into her flight suit, and pulled out a burner flip phone, a relic she had once sworn never to use unless the world truly needed saving. She flipped it open. A signal pulsed. Back on Earth, dozens of old bunkers lit up. Hidden outposts activated. Across the globe, a ragtag crew of ex-operatives, hackers, soldiers, and lunatics received the same message. She said, "Hold my beer. Engage Chaos Protocol." The first to respond was a bald man living in a shack in the Mojave. He hadn't spoken to anyone in 5 years, but now he nodded, rolled out a camouflage Harley, and muttered, "Showtime." Tanya watched the incoming warships growing on her radar. The odds were not in her favor, but the look in her eyes said the Empire should be afraid. Very afraid. "Janet," she said. "Yes, Sugarplum?" "Ready the hologram projectors. I'm going to address the galaxy." Lights dimmed. A platform rose. The comms array activated. Across the stars, from Empire homeworlds to backwater mining stations, screens blinked and displayed Tanya's face. Confident. Calm. Backlit by the fiery glow of Saturn's rings. "This is General Tanya Briggs of Earth. You sent your threats. Your fleets. You tried to break me. Instead, you woke up a planet that thrives on chaos, caffeine, and unresolved emotional trauma." She leaned in. "We don't bow. We barbecue. And if you think a few death ships are going to make us blink, well then, you've clearly never seen a Florida man fight a gator over a six-pack." She held up a can. I found another beer. And now, I'm just getting started. The transmission cut. Every fleet admiral, every high commander, every alien citizen who saw her speech felt the same creeping chill. The kind that comes right before your entire civilization gets kicked in the teeth by someone in work boots and a bad attitude. The Endgame had been activated. But the chaos? Oh, it was just beginning. In a bunker buried beneath Cheyenne Mountain, one of Earth's most clandestine facilities, alarms screamed in joyous disharmony. Ancient servers, patched together with duct tape, faith, and decades of classified caffeine, spun to life, projecting a hologram of Tanya Briggs across the walls. She was mid-sentence, sipping from a bottle of Shiner Bock and issuing threats that echoed with poetic, beer-soaked patriotism. Across the globe, the call had gone out, Chaos Protocol. Earth's response didn't look like a military parade. It looked like a Comic-Con mosh pit collided with a Doomsday Preppers convention at a monster truck rally. First to report in was Major Boomer Alvarez, a retired Green Beret living in a converted school bus in Montana. He answered the signal from a rusting satellite dish he'd wired to a potato battery. Clad in a robe, cowboy hat, and slippers, he emerged from the bus with a thermos of soup and a flamethrower named Ethel. He didn't say much, just squinted into the sun and muttered, "She needs us." From a swamp in Louisiana, two twin sisters, ex-Navy engineers turned bayou tinkerers, fired up a handmade drone army powered by crawfish oil and coded with Super Nintendo logic. Their call sign, the Gator GRLZ. Out in Tokyo, a former hacker turned arcade owner unlocked the back cabinet of a DDR machine. Inside, a neural sync helmet, a defunct mech pilot rig, and a long-lost prototype of Project Godzilla-san. He cracked his knuckles. Finally, he whispered, "It is time." In Alabama, a man who claimed to be Elvis's illegitimate nephew rode into the frame of his live stream atop a bedazzled four-wheeler, holding two raccoons in tactical vests. Behind him, a makeshift banner, "Y'all wanted a war?" The people of Earth were not ready for peace. But they were ready. Back in orbit aboard the USS Hold My Beer, Tanya stood on the command deck, watching as Earth's transmissions filtered in. One by one, signal after signal, messages poured into the ship's console. Texas is online. Operation Cornbread Storm initialized. We reactivated the Jersey bunker, and yes, Vinny still got nukes. Scotland's mad and drunk. We're in. Janet the AI gave a soft hum of delight. This is either the start of a galactic rebellion or the world's weirdest cookout. Tanya smirked. Why not both? A flashing icon drew her attention. Live feed from a floating orbital platform, formerly a forgotten NASA relic, now rebranded Snackcom 1. A group of volunteers, gamers, cosplayers, Reddit mod refugees, and burned-out engineers had converted the satellite into a command and supply hub. They didn't have weapons. They had microwaves, energy drinks, Pop-Tarts, and an uncanny ability to coordinate memes at scale. Their leader, a woman with bright pink hair and a voice like a caffeinated librarian, called herself Commander Pop-Tart. General Briggs, we are locked, loaded, and fully stocked on cosmic snack logistics. Also, I've taught 3 squirrels how to operate the vending module. Tanya blinked. Are they union? Only one. Larry bit the HR guy. Perfect. Keep 'em fed, Commander. Back on Earth, the White House had become a 24-hour command center. President Malone no longer wore a suit. He wore a leather jacket and fingerless gloves. An intern tried to ask why. He stared back. Because this is the part in the movie where the president stops being a politician and becomes a legend. Which movie, sir? All of them. The main conflict had shifted. No longer just Tanya versus the Empire. It was Earth versus uniformity. Against sterilized tyranny. Against an empire that couldn't even handle sarcasm without short-circuiting. Aboard the Empire's High Council vessel, the debate had reached cataclysmic levels of panic. Advisors showed intercepted Earth footage. Men in chicken suits operating modified go-karts with rocket launchers. Children building siege weapons out of Nerf parts. A grandma from Detroit threatening orbital bombardment if bingo was canceled again. Are they mocking us? One counselor asked. They're preparing, Zarnox hissed. They are assembling an asymmetric force unlike any we've faced. No uniforms. No central command. Just chaos incarnate. The other counselor's voice trembled. And the snacks. Weaponized sugar. On the Hold My Beer, Tanya gathered her inner circle. Zorn, the formerly frightened engineer, now wore Earth cargo pants and a bandolier filled with tools and duct tape. He stood beside her, posture straighter than the day they met. She gestured toward the screen, showing the Empire's approaching Endgame fleet. We can't match them ship for ship. But we don't have to. We hit them where they're weakest. Zorn squinted. The engines? Shields. Their sense of control. Their pride. Their inability to understand why we keep throwing marshmallows into reactors just to see what happens. At that moment, the signal from Boomer came through. He stood in front of a hand-built rocket launcher platform painted like a bald eagle, ready to test the War Rig Mark III. Tanya nodded. Fire. Boomer turned to his assistant, his pet llama, strapped in a tactical harness, and pulled the lever. The rocket screamed into orbit, veered sideways, exploded in a bright puff of glitter, and broadcast a loop of Eye of the Tiger on every Empire frequency. It did no damage. But 10 Empire ships turned around and fled. The point wasn't destruction. It was destabilization. In space battles across the sector, Earth's new irregular forces sprang into action. Drones disguised as pizza boxes snuck onto command cruisers. Infiltrators armed with karaoke microphones caused more panic than grenades. One Canadian unit weaponized passive aggression and compliments until their captors released them out of sheer emotional confusion. Meanwhile, Tanya led a frontal feint near Neptune, her ship accompanied by retrofitted SpaceX crafts held together by optimism and bungee cords. From the bridge, she coordinated chaos like a conductor with a death wish. The Endgame fleet approached, each ship larger than cities, weapons humming with apocalyptic intent. But the Empire had one blind spot. They'd never fought an enemy who quoted the A-Team mid-battle. Tanya opened a channel to the flagship of the enemy fleet. Zarnox appeared, composed but twitching. Surrender, General. The directive has been issued. Earth will be erased. Its influence contained. You're still assuming we want to survive in a way you understand, Tanya said calmly. That's your mistake. You think order is the only way forward. But we thrive in the mess. Order ensures longevity. Maybe. But chaos ensures legacy. She ended the transmission. Moments later, she activated a wave of experimental EMP drones disguised as disco balls. They burst through the fleet like fireworks at a Springsteen concert. Power outages spread like gossip at a Southern church. Amid the storm, she whispered, "Janet, it's time. You want the backup anthem? Let's rock." Across every comm line in the sector, a familiar guitar riff exploded. Back in black. The Empire's sensors glitched. Ships collided. Fleet commanders screamed as their interfaces blared lyrics they couldn't comprehend. One even tried to sing along and broke a mandible. Commander Potart transmitted the final supply drop. Pallets of beef jerky, glitter bombs, and 5,000 tiny speakers, each playing a different version of Take On Me. Their sonic resonance created frequency that destabilized the Empire's cloaking fields. Tanya looked at Zorn. He looked back. "You think this will work?" he asked. "No idea," she said honestly. "But it'll be one hell of a story." As the Hold My Beer carved a path straight into the heart of the Endgame fleet, Earth's ragtag rebellion surged behind her. Not soldiers. Not warriors. Just people. Weird, wild, unpredictable people with duct tape, drive, and an attitude forged by sitcoms and stubbornness. And somewhere across the galaxy, a child from a quiet alien colony watched the battle unfold and whispered, "I want to be human when I grow up." The battle had begun. But the real war? The war for identity, for unpredictability, for the right to be gloriously weird? That was just getting started. The galactic throne world of Valraxis had never known invasion. Its shields had repelled solar flares, asteroid swarms, and the occasional god-tier species demanding tribute. Built into the bones of a dying neutron star, it was the beating, blackened heart of the Empire, impenetrable, untouchable, a monument to enduring dominion. Until today. The USS Hold My Beer tore through the upper atmosphere with all the grace of a punk concert grenade. Every sensor on the planet flared red. Their network screamed. The alarms, dormant for eons, crackled with confusion as Earth's first interstellar flagship, covered in duct tape, graffiti, and an inexplicably large mural of a bald eagle crushing a martini glass, plummeted like vengeance in denim. Inside the ship, General Tanya Briggs fastened the last strap of her chest harness. She wore no traditional armor, just her weathered field jacket, scuffed boots, and a thin smirk that looked like it could crack walls. Zorn stood beside her, jittery and wide-eyed. He had swapped his engineering robes for Earth cargo gear, and a headband with the words "Born" to build scrawled across it in permanent marker. His fingers trembled on the interface, but his jaw was set with steel. "You understand," he said, if we breach the Citadel, there's no going back. No retreat. This is the Empire's core. Every last protocol will be activated." Tanya glanced sideways at him. "Kid, I haven't gone back from anything since my first ex tried to steal my dog. If we're dying today, we're dying loud." The ship slammed through the final layer of defenses, shrugging off ion barges and logic mines. Janet, the ship's AI, now decorated with a southern twang and a cowboy hat interface, whooped in delight. "Sugarplum, we've just been invited to the fanciest funeral in the cosmos." Tanya hit the drop ramp. "Then let's bring the noise." The Citadel loomed, towers of polished obsidian, towers etched with the names of 1,000 conquered species. At its peak stood the throne room, and upon it, High Overseer Zarnox, now a fractured shadow of his former self. His robes were torn, his mask cracked. The once unflappable voice of order now sounded tight with disbelief. "Prepare the Singularity Lance," he ordered, voice brittle. His command crew hesitated. One brave officer finally said, "Sir, we've lost control of all lower sectors. The humans, they've flooded the ventilation system with confetti. The generators are singing. Literally singing." "They what?" "It's Bohemian Rhapsody, sir. With kazoos." The Overseer clenched a fist, trembling. This cannot be how the Empire ends. Not to chaos. Not to laughter. Outside the palace walls, the first Earth drop pods smashed into the parade plaza. Boomer hit the ground in a rusted exosuit powered by sheer spite. Commander Pop-Tart skated down from orbit on a repurposed food service drone, twin flamethrowers rigged to shoot glitter. The Gator GRLZ launched themselves from a swamp cruiser retrofitted with fireworks and half a jet engine. They didn't move like soldiers. They moved like folklore. Tanya landed last, boots hitting the stone with a solid crack. Her team formed up, and behind them, Earthlings. From every walk of life. Miners, teachers, cosplayers in functional Iron Man suits. A librarian riding a moose named Carl. Across the Blackstone battlefield, legions of Empire troops mobilized, their armor flawless, their tactics precise. But it didn't matter. Precision failed against madness. The battle erupted in full. Earth's front line didn't charge, they swaggered. Tanya led the way, weaving between blasts with the ease of a bar fight veteran on her fifth bourbon. Her weapon wasn't elegant. It was a jury-rigged plasma cannon fused to a baseball bat handle. She wielded it like a hammer of judgment. Zorn stuck to her flank, directing drone swarms made from converted Roombas and coffee machines. They zipped beneath enemy walkers and overloaded their legs with caffeine-infused sabotage. The Gator GRLZ surfed through the chaos on jet skates, tossing exploding crawfish bombs. Commander Pop-Tart hacked into the enemy's comm system, replacing the tactical HUD with looping footage of Nicolas Cage screaming. In the center of the Citadel, Tanya kicked open the massive throne doors with the casual power of a woman who'd once drop-kicked a tank. Zarnox stood at the far end, alone now, his last guards reduced to either wreckage or fans. He didn't retreat. He stepped forward, slowly. "You're not the first upstart to reach this hall. But I'll be the last one you see in it," Tanya said. "Do you understand what you've done? You've broken the order of the stars." "No," she said. "We reminded the galaxy that order without soul is just a cage." And Earth doesn't do cages. She stepped forward. Zarnox raised his hands. A final failsafe hummed to life, a device built to rewrite local reality. He was going to erase her from existence. "You die first," he whispered. Then Tanya threw her boot at him. It hit squarely in his chest and exploded. Zorn had rigged it with a microcore charge an hour ago. Zarnox was blasted across the room. Tanya followed, leaping the dais, fist swinging. The Overseer clawed to his feet, striking out with psionic rage. The walls cracked. The air shimmered. He flung her across the chamber. She landed hard, groaned, then stood again. "You don't quit," he spat. "You don't get to define us," she replied. Their final clash wasn't elegant. It wasn't martial art choreography. It was messy, brutal, full of elbows and fury and battle cries stolen from action movies. Zarnox fought with power. Tanya fought with pain and humor. When he tried to crush her, she stuck gum to his faceplate. When he blasted her with a telekinetic pulse, she retaliated by breaking a pipe and spraying him with steam. The fight ended when she tackled him through the throne itself. As they lay on the shattered floor, Zarnox wheezed. "They'll remember you as chaos incarnate." "No," she said, breathing hard. "They'll remember me as human." He tried to rise. She cracked a cold beer over his head. Then she stood, bruised and bloodied, and turned to the camera drones broadcasting to every known world. "This is General Tanya Briggs. The Empire has fallen. The galaxy is free." A pause. "And y'all better stock up on snacks, because Earth's just getting started." The broadcast ended. All across the stars, oppressed species wept, laughed, or howled. They rose. They danced. They memed. And back on Earth, in bars, in bunkers, in backyards, people cheered. Because somehow, against all odds, a beer-drinking general, a misfit crew, and a planet full of weirdos had defeated the oldest empire in the cosmos. Not with brute force, but with humor, with fury, with humanity, and a whole lot of glitter.